Today, I'm going to share with you a story that might just change the way you think about starting your own poultry business, something truly incredible. How I started a profitable poultry farm with just $200. I know what you're thinking. Is that even possible? Trust me, I thought the same at first. But stick with me until the end because I'm about to show you step by step how I made it work and how you can too. You see, many people dream of starting their own poultry farm, but are held back by one big challenge: capital. Most of us keep waiting for that perfect moment, the one where we'll have all the money, time, and resources to begin. Let me tell you something. It rarely works out like that. I realized that instead of waiting for a perfect moment, I had to create one. So, I decided to start small, work smart, and make the most of what I had. Now let's get into the details. How exactly did I use my $200? Here's how it all came together. I used $81 to buy 100 Sasso day-old chicks. For water, I bought 2 simple plastic drinkers, which cost me $3. The remaining $116 went toward feed and basic supplies to take care of the birds for their first month. It sounds simple, but that's exactly the point. When you're starting out with limited resources, you have to keep it simple and creative. I didn't have extra money to buy commercial feeders, so I improvised. I used locally available materials to make functional feeders. They weren't fancy or impressive to look at, but they worked perfectly. That's the beauty of starting small. Resourcefulness becomes your greatest asset. Let's talk about housing. My first chicken house wasn't some grand or expensive structure. It was a simple, abandoned grass-thatched house for my brother. I know that might sound funny to some of you, but it got the job done. It kept my chicks safe from the weather and predators, which was my top priority at the time. It also allowed me to save money for what mattered most: feed and healthcare for my birds. Starting small doesn't mean you compromise on quality. It simply means you focus on what's essential and find creative ways to make it work. The first month of brooding was all about paying attention to the details. This is such a critical stage because young chicks are delicate and need proper care to survive and grow. I made sure they had the right temperature, clean water, and sufficient feed. I didn't leave anything to chance because every little detail mattered. By the end of that first month, my chicks were healthy and strong, ready for the next phase. After that first month, I transitioned to a free-range system. This was a game changer. The Sasso breed is perfect for free-range because they're hardy, good foragers, and adapt well to local conditions. Moving them to a free-range setup significantly reduced my feed costs while still allowing the birds to grow at a healthy rate. It's amazing how much of a difference this made. When you're starting out, every penny saved makes a huge impact. Now, let me share a moment that changed everything for me. Around the 1-month mark, I noticed something fascinating. There was a growing demand in my area for 1-month-old Sasso chicks. Many people were interested in raising these birds, but didn't want to go through the brooding phase because it requires extra care and attention. That was my light bulb moment. I realized I could sell these chicks to other farmers at a profit and use the money to reinvest in my farm. That realization taught me something so valuable. Success in poultry farming isn't just about raising chickens. It's about paying attention to your market, identifying opportunities, and being flexible enough to adapt. By spotting this need and meeting it, I was able to take my farm to the next level. Starting small, staying resourceful, and looking for opportunities were the keys to my journey. And trust me, this is only the beginning of the story. There's so much more I've learned along the way, and I can't wait to share it with you. If you've ever thought about starting your own poultry farm, remember, it's possible to achieve great things with very little. All it takes is creativity, determination, and a willingness to learn. At the 1-month mark, I made a decision that some people thought was crazy. Instead of keeping all 100 birds until they matured, I decided to sell 50 of them. Let me take you through the story of how this decision came about and how it turned into a pivotal moment for my poultry business. One day, while I was out attending to my flock, a neighbor stopped by. She was fascinated by how healthy and active my Sasso chicks were. As we talked, she admitted something that surprised me. She said, "I'd love to raise these birds, but I'm terrified of the brooding phase." In that moment, something clicked in my mind. I realized there was an untapped market right in front of me. Here's the thing, many people dream of raising chickens, but they're held back by fear. It's not always a lack of money, it's the anxiety that comes with brooding, the delicate stage where chicks are most vulnerable. People worry about losing birds due to mistakes with temperature control, nutrition, or vaccinations. And honestly, those fears are valid because brooding is a sensitive and challenging period. But then I thought, what if I could take that fear away for them? What if I could sell not just healthy chicks, but peace of mind? That moment taught me something profound about the psychology of the market. Poultry farming isn't just about raising birds, it's about solving problems for your customers. By offering 1-month-old chicks, I wasn't simply selling healthy birds. I was providing a solution to a very real concern. For my customers, those chicks represented a head start without the headaches of brooding. And they were more than willing to pay a premium for that peace of mind. When I sold those 51-month-old chicks, I made $136. It might not sound like a lot at first, but it was transformative for my small operation. The customers were willing to pay more because I had already taken on the riskiest part of raising the chicks. Selling those birds not only brought in much needed cash, but also reduced my feed costs and freed up space in my chicken shelter. Most importantly, I now had real money in hand to reinvest into my farm. This experience also taught me about the importance of timing in business. One of my first customers was a retired teacher who bought 5 chicks. Just 2 weeks later, she came back wanting more. But by then, I had already sold all 50. That moment made me realize how crucial it is to plan ahead and anticipate demand. Timing isn't just about when to sell, it's about understanding when the market is ready for your product and being prepared to meet that need. Every cent of that $136 went straight back into the farm. I prioritized improving the chicken house to create a better environment for the birds. I focused on proper ventilation to keep the air fresh and reduce diseases. I added an elevated floor to improve hygiene and make cleaning easier, a sturdy roof to protect the birds from rain, and harsh sunlight to ensure their safety. These upgrades weren't just about making the farm look better. They were about creating a foundation for long-term success. With the 50 birds I kept, I had the flexibility to experiment with different approaches to poultry management. I adopted a hybrid system that combined free-range foraging in the mornings with a deep litter system in the afternoons. This allowed the birds to get natural nutrition while also keeping them comfortable and reducing waste buildup. I supplemented their diet with quality feed during key growth periods, focusing on timing and efficiency. These adjustments saved me money on feed, while producing healthy, active birds that customers were eager to buy. During this phase, I had an experience that completely changed the way I approached poultry farming. One of my birds got sick, and I panicked. My first instinct was to rush to the store and spend money on medications, but instead, I consulted a local veterinarian. He introduced me to affordable natural remedies and preventive care techniques that turned out to be both effective and sustainable. That knowledge became invaluable, not just for that batch, but for every batch after it. When the remaining 50 birds reached 4 months old, I sold them for $351. From my initial $200 investment, I had nearly doubled my money. But instead of treating that $351 as profit, I saw it as an opportunity. Every dollar went back into improving the farm further. By the end of that phase, I had a better chicken house, a growing customer base, and the confidence that my system worked. Most importantly, I had laid the groundwork for sustainable growth. This wasn't just a lucky break, it was the result of thoughtful planning, hard work, and a willingness to adapt and learn. That's the power of starting small and thinking big. Remember that $351 I made from selling the 50 mature birds? That money didn't sit idle in my account. I immediately put it to work, investing it into my next big move, a new batch of 100 Sasso chicks. But this time, things were different. I was no longer starting from scratch. I had knowledge, experience, and resources on my side. First, I had a proper chicken house with good ventilation. The lessons from my first batch taught me how critical housing is for the health and productivity of the birds. With a more structured setup, I was ready to accommodate this new batch in a more efficient way. My confidence had also grown. I wasn't second-guessing myself anymore because I had seen my system work. Another big advantage was my relationship with feed suppliers. During the first round, I learned which suppliers offered the best quality feed and consistent delivery. This was a game changer because proper feeding is the backbone of a healthy flock. Additionally, I had a proven system that worked, and all I needed to do was fine-tune it. When the new batch of chicks arrived, something interesting happened. I realized that chicks from one particular supplier were consistently healthier and more vigorous than those from others. This was a huge lesson for me about the importance of sourcing quality chicks. From then on, I committed to working only with suppliers who could deliver high-quality chicks, no compromises. This time, I decided to raise all 100 birds to maturity instead of selling any early. I wanted to test my system at full capacity and push myself to learn more. To make this possible, I had upgraded my housing system. The chicken house was now big enough to accommodate 100 birds until maturity with proper ventilation. I replaced the improvised feeders with better ones and set up a proper deep litter system that was easier to maintain. Feeding was another area where I had to step up my game. I continued the morning free-range foraging, which allowed the birds to find natural nutrition and helped me save on feed costs. But I also supplemented their diet with high-quality locally formulated chicken feeds, particularly during critical growth stages. I experimented with feed alternatives, incorporating locally available ingredients to cut costs without compromising on nutrition. Timing became a key strategy too. I fed the birds at specific times of the day to ensure they maximized their growth potential without wasting feed. Health management was an area I took very seriously. I implemented a strict biosecurity and cleaning schedule to maintain hygiene and prevent diseases. I incorporated natural immunity boosters like garlic and aloe vera in their water, which kept them strong and resilient. Vaccination was done on time, and I conducted weekly health checks to spot any potential issues early. Here's a principle I followed that many farmers overlook. I didn't touch any profits from previous sales. Every cent went back into the business. Why? Because I had a bigger vision. My goal was to scale up to at least 200 birds at the beginning of 2025, and I knew I needed to reinvest to make that happen. As much as I wanted to enjoy some of the rewards of my hard work, I reminded myself that patience and discipline were key to long-term success. As of January 2025, my 100 birds are thriving. They've grown strong, and I'm on the verge of making a sale that I believe will transform my poultry business. Based on my calculations, the revenue from this batch will not only cover the costs of raising 200 birds, but also allow me to further improve my infrastructure. However, I'm not relying solely on these sales for growth. I've decided to invest additional funds from other sources into the business. Growth requires sacrifice, and I'm fully prepared to do whatever it takes. Let me share a little secret I've discovered in my area, though I can't guarantee it will be the same for everyone. There's a growing market for organically raised chickens. People are becoming more conscious of what they eat, and they're willing to pay premium prices for birds raised in free-range conditions, fed on natural ingredients, and grown without artificial hormones. These customers care deeply about how the birds are treated, and they value farmers who prioritize animal welfare. This insight has shaped my next steps. I'm now preparing to diversify into egg production, and I'll be raising hens that are both organically fed on free-range and deep litter system. It's built up on the foundation of starting small and growing steadily. If you've been watching and wondering whether you can start your own poultry farm, I want to encourage you with this. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Start with what you have. Think big, but start small. Every mistake is a lesson. Reinvest your profits and focus on consistency. It won't always be easy, but every step forward will bring you closer to your goals. Let me share a story that illustrates an important lesson in poultry farming. When I first started, I met another farmer who invested $2,000 in an elaborate setup. He built a fancy chicken house with all the bells and whistles and bought everything he thought he needed to succeed. But within months, he gave up. Why? Because he hadn't learned the basics first. That experience left a strong impression on me, and I want to share the lessons I learned so you don't make the same mistakes. If you're just starting, begin small with a number of birds you can comfortably manage. The goal isn't to impress anyone with the size of your farm, it's to master the fundamentals of poultry care before thinking about scaling up. Start with the basics: feed management, proper housing, and health checks. Build relationships with suppliers and customers gradually. Most importantly, give yourself time to learn and solve problems when the stakes are lower. Your chicken house doesn't have to be fancy, but it must be functional. I can't stress enough how important ventilation is. A well-ventilated space ensures your birds stay healthy. Predators are another big concern, so make sure your housing is secure. It should also be easy to clean and appropriately sized for the number of birds you're raising. Keep it simple and focus on what works. Through trial and error, I developed a system that works for me. If any bird shows signs of illness, I isolate it immediately to stop the spread of disease. Now let's talk about some common mistakes that many beginners make. First, overinvestment in infrastructure. Don't build expensive structures when you're just starting out with little capital. Your focus should be on functionality rather than appearance. As your farm becomes more profitable, you can gradually expand and upgrade. Second, poor record keeping. You need to track every expense, monitor how much feed you're using, and record the growth rates of your birds. This information is invaluable because it helps you make informed decisions. Also, document any health issues or treatments your birds require so you can improve your management practices over time. Third, ignoring market research. Before you even start, you should know who your target customers are and what they're looking for. Understand local price trends and build relationships with potential buyers. The market is always changing, and staying informed will give you a competitive edge. Reinvesting profits is another key point. I didn't spend my early profits on luxuries or unnecessary expenses. Instead, I put that money back into the business. Whether it was upgrading my chicken house or buying better equipment, every decision was made with the long-term success of the farm in mind. I also started building an emergency fund because unexpected challenges are inevitable in farming. Networking with other farmers has been one of the most rewarding parts of this journey. I've learned so much by talking to more experienced farmers and attending workshops. Farming techniques are always evolving, and staying updated keeps you ahead of the curve. For long-term success, I've adopted a strategy of continuous learning. I attend training sessions whenever I can, experiment with new ideas, and stay open to feedback. At the same time, I keep a close eye on consumer trends. There's a growing demand for organically raised poultry, and adapting to meet that demand has opened up new opportunities for me. To everyone watching, let me leave you with some words of encouragement. Your dreams of starting a poultry farm are absolutely valid. Start where you are, use what you have, and learn as you grow. Stay committed to your vision, no matter how small your beginning may seem. Remember my journey. I started with just $200. I made mistakes, but I learned from them. I kept reinvesting my profits and never gave up. Today, I'm not only running a successful farm, but I'm also planning to expand to at least 200 birds and explore new opportunities like egg production. Success in poultry farming isn't about starting with a lot of money. It's about smart planning, consistent execution, patient growth, continuous learning, and dedication. And that, my friends, is how I turned a small $200 investment into a thriving poultry business. It wasn't luck, it was about starting small, learning from every step, and staying committed to the bigger vision. Now, it's your turn to take that first step. If you've been waiting for the perfect moment to start your poultry farming journey, this is it. Don't let fear or doubt hold you back any longer. Start where you are, with what you have, and let your determination guide you. I have made videos to guide every beginner starting from scratch, and I have linked in the description. If this story inspired you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know your biggest takeaway. Have questions? Ask away. I'll be here to guide you. And if you're ready to join a community of like-minded people who are building their dreams one step at a time, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel. Click on the video on screen now for a complete beginner's guide to starting a profitable poultry farm as a side hustle from scratch. Let's grow together, learn together, and build the future we've always dreamed of, one bird at a time. Until next time, keep dreaming big and working hard. See you in the next video.